go ahead and call the meeting to order. And before we take roll and get started, I want to recognize a couple of guests that we have here for John. And first we have his wife Meredith, and we have his in-laws, Jim and Kathleen Thompson. And we're welcome you all, and really glad that you're here with John. This is a big day for him and a big day for us, because we're always excited when we have a new commissioner on the board. This is not a new thing for Kathleen. She's a little of one of our favorite people. George Archer was on the board with me. Was he on the board with you?
I was telling her, George actually put my name in the hat on the nominating committee. That's
Okay.
how I even actually got on there.
So he was a great commissioner that we enjoyed serving with. So we're glad all three of you all are here, and glad that John's going to be on the board with us. So, Mr. Coley, will you show that Sarah is here, not here, and that everybody else is here? And our first order of business, well, first of all, let's approve the minutes. Everybody should have received the minutes from our December meeting. Is there a motion regarding the minutes?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Second official action is the oath of office for John Ward.
John, if you will join me. Let's see. Can you hold the Bible? And then you'll stand right here. Put your you're fine right there. Put your left hand on the Bible. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. Kelly, is
Could
this
you
okay?
move that way more? Sorry.
Gotta get the right seat.
Mintha was still in the
There's
shop.
one
We
person
can't
here
have
that we
that.
really need, please, and that's Kelly. Are we okay?
You're good.
All right. Please repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I possess the qualifications required by law for the office of KUB Commissioner. That I will support the Constitution of the United States. The Constitution of the State of Tennessee. The Charter of the City of Knoxville. And the bylaws of KUB. That I do not have any contracts or business interests with KUB. That constitute a conflict of interest. And that I will faithfully discharge and perform with fidelity the duties of Commissioner without fear or favor, to the extent of my skill and ability. So help me God. Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations, John, and welcome to the board. All right, the second order of business is the election of officers for 2015. Mr. Coley, will you conduct that election, please?
Yes, Chair Anderson. Commissioners, last month, the nominating committee nominated a slate of officers for your consideration. You will recall that the recommended slate of officers is Nikisha Thompson for chair, Kathy Hamilton, vice chair, and Mark Walker, secretary. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, is there a second to the recommendation?
Second.
The motion has been seconded. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Mr. Chair, the election is completed, and we'll now turn the chair over to our new chairperson, Nikisha Thompson.
Okay, this is not on my bucket list, but thank you. But I do want to say it's an honor to serve as the chair, and I do want to thank Bruce think Bruce has served as our chair, and he served with wisdom and integrity and that sense of humor that we sometimes need. I had a couple of other things I've written down, but I wanted your head to be able to get out that door. But most of all, he's had dedication to the ratepayers, our community, and KUB as a whole. And I thank you for that. And I'm sure the whole board feels the same.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thanks.
Okay, so I guess we'll get on to business, right? We're gonna start with Resolution 1323, requesting the City Council of the City of Knoxville to pass a resolution setting the tax equivalent payments for the electric and gas systems for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2014, and providing for allocations and distribution of such payments to the affected taxing jurisdiction. And I want to recognize him.
Commissioners, I'll recognize Chris Hood, our accounting manager. He'll provide the details behind this resolution.
Thank you, Ms. Wright.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Today I would like to provide an overview of KUB's in lieu of tax payments for fiscal year 2015 for each of our operating divisions and present Resolution 1323 for your consideration. This resolution is a request to City Council for approval of our electric and gas in lieu of tax payments. As you might recall, each year KUB makes in lieu of tax payments to each of the taxing jurisdictions in which we have utility facilities located. For fiscal year 15, that amount is $25.9 million. That is a $2.5 million or 10.6% increase over the previous fiscal year. Main drivers of that increase is the increased infrastructure that we've installed in our systems related to our Century 2 programs. That accounts for 1.3 of the $2.5 million increase. Higher margins necessary to support those programs contributed $200,000. And finally, the City of Knoxville's property tax rate increase contributed $950,000 this year to our tax equivalents. Before we look at the dollars, let's look a little bit at the governance over our property and how that works. First of all, the water and wastewater divisions are governed by city charter. City charter dictates that we make payments to the city based upon the net plant values in those systems. Once brought before this board, KUB will make those payments to the city of the last business day of February. Conversely, in our electric and gas divisions, electric and gas is bound by state law. State law dictates that we calculate payments based on our net plant values and our average operating margins for those two divisions. Once those amounts are calculated, they're brought by this board via resolution, and also to KUB's governing body being City Council for approval before they can be distributed to the taxing jurisdictions. Once approved by both bodies, those payments are made the last business day of June. Taking a look at the taxes by division, our electric division, obviously our largest division, makes the largest amount of payments. This year, that's $13.3 million. That's an increase of $1.4 million over the previous year. Once again, you can see the impact of Century 2 there in the work we're doing. The gas division, payments are up in that division this year by $300,000. We will pay almost $6.1 million in tax equivalents in the gas division. Water division is up almost $600,000 this year. Water division will pay $2.9 million in tax equivalents. And finally, the wastewater division is almost $3.6 million in tax equivalents this year, an increase of $200,000. Overall, $25.9 million worth of payments, $2.4 million, almost $2.5 million increase. Taking a look at distribution of the tax equivalents to the taxing jurisdictions, as you might assume, City of Knoxville receives the largest share of our tax equivalents. This year, that's $16.5 million. That's a 12.9% increase in payments over last fiscal year. $1.9 million that the city will receive from KUB. Knox County will receive $500,000 in addition to what they received in fiscal year 14, with total payments of a little over $8.6 million. Cumulatively, the remaining taxing jurisdictions will receive roughly $800,000, which is up a little over $100,000 from the previous fiscal year. Taking a look at the trend lines, trend line growth over the last 5 years is 6.1% per year. That has been impacted, as you can see here, especially on the city's growth rate, tax rate increase. You can really tell the jump here in this trend line versus the previous fiscal But overall, taxes are up in the city by 6.4%, county by 5.4%. And even in the other taxing jurisdictions, even though this line looks pretty flat, it actually mirrors that very closely with what the city looks like. Finally, this brings us to the resolution before you today. Resolution 1323 is a request to City Council for approval of the tax equivalents for the electric and gas divisions. Once they approve that and set those distributions to the taxing jurisdictions, all the statutory requirements of state law will be met for KUB to distribute those payments in June. Total amount of the request before City Council this year is $19,391,237.
Does anybody have any questions for the board? If not, I want to request a motion and a second for resolution 1323 on first and final reading.
Move to accept 1323.
Second.
Do we have anything, a visitor or anyone that wants to speak on this matter? Okay, Mr. Coley, could you please start the roll call?
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Hamilton,
Aye.
Commissioner Herbert,
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
Commissioner Warden.
Aye.
Resolution 1323 is passed.
Mintha, want to recognize Mintha for the president's report.
Commissioners, as you will recall, each January we have a brief board presentation on the board's conflict of interest policy and the annual disclosure. This year we're combining that with a report on the bylaws amendments, and I recognize Elba Marshall, who was recently promoted to be Manager of Executive Services, for that presentation.
Thank you.
Commissioners, as Ms. Roach has stated, I'm here to talk to you about the bylaw revisions as well as the annual conflict of interest. We'll start with the bylaw revisions. As you all may recall, in 2012, we did a fairly comprehensive overview and update of the bylaws. As a result, the proposed changes that I have here to present today are housekeeping in nature, and the intent is to bring clarity and also codify current practice. In accordance with the bylaw amendments, we are required to present any amendments in a meeting separate than that in which they are adopted. So I will be back in February asking for adoption of the proposed changes that you will hear about today. A copy of the red line version is available in your packets if you have any questions or would like to follow along. The first one is section 3, regular meetings. This is a fairly easy change. We are changing the notice to allow us to serve notice personally and electronically. Section 4, special meetings. Special meetings may be called by the chair and 2 commissioners and generally require 24 hours notice. We've clarified that in the case of an emergency, less notice will be permissible. Section 6, order of business, we have updated it to include official action and the president's report. Currently it has old and new business. Section 7, board officers, it's clarified that commissioners may serve multiple officer terms as long as there's a break in service. And also clarified that the chair appoints all committee chairs. Section 8, the committees of the board, we've clarified that the committees can pass resolutions. As you all know, that's a regular function of the Audit and Finance Committee. New items, so items that we've added to the bylaws include order of business. We've codified the current practice for public comment. The public may make comments prior to a vote on official action and also during the public comments portion of a meeting. The public comment is limited to 5 minutes unless otherwise waived by the board. Section 8A, Audit and Finance Committee, we've codified the oversight of the role of other post-employment benefits, also known as OPEB, as well as codified the committee's review of the improper activity report and the competitive bidding exceptions report, and also allowed for any additional mandated state law reports that are added after this is approved. Our final addition is the codification of our current practice that commissioners cannot be employees or retirees of a energy, water, wastewater, utility, or an energy company. And that is a summary of the proposed changes. Do you all have any questions? Our next steps, as I stated earlier, are to come back in February and ask for official action. And if approved, the bylaws will be updated immediately or adopted immediately. Now on to conflict of interest annual disclosure. Commissioners, as you know, part of your role as a commissioner is making sure that you abide by regulations that monitor ethics. And these date back to our city charter, Resolution 1, which was the very first resolution adopted by this board, as well as general state law. In 2000, the board adopted a conflict of interest policy, and then in 2005, KUB adopted an employee's conflict of interest that also required a disclosure. I am happy to report today that all of our employees have updated and completed this process, and we are current. In 2006, in addition to the state law, the state got more engaged and established a ethics commission. As a result of their work, many municipalities across the state adopted ethics policy, and our board did the same in 2007. In 2012, the bylaws added, or when we did the comprehensive update, we updated the ethics section, and then in 2013, just a couple of years ago, this board adopted a requirement for an annual disclosure, which is what we are asking you all to do today. This disclosure and the policy aligns with governing statutes and guidelines, and it certifies that you are in compliance with not having political activity, the nepotism guidelines, and that you are not accepting gifts or gratuities, and that you're disclosing any personal or financial interests that may exist, as well as ensuring that you are not performing or having improper use of your position or KUB's time, facilities, or equipment. This requires a disclosure if there is a conflict that does exist. And today you have that annual form in your packet along with what you have completed the year prior and a copy of the ethics policy. You are welcome to complete those today, or an envelope has been provided so you have an opportunity to review the materials and submit it. We just ask that that is submitted before the end of January. Any questions? Thank you.
Next, we'll have a natural gas update from Paul Randolph.
Thank you.
Yes, I want to provide you a little bit of an update on the natural gas system as a whole, and also a special project we have ongoing today. This is all a part of what we do in preparation for the spring budget season, as we say. And you'll hear from our electric system next month. So let's get started with this. Today, again, the South Loop project. I think we've talked about that project for well over a year now. But I want to give you an update where we are on that progress on phase 2. Talk about the regulatory environment. It's an ever-evolving environment in the natural gas distribution industries. We'll talk about that, talk about our system growth summit, and how we respond with our Century 2 projects to those changing regulatory rules and our systems development and growth. The South Loop project, we completed phase 1 in 2012. We are currently working on phase 2, which starts down at Topside Road, and the cross-country pipeline makes its way up to the river crossing we completed in 2012. So that's underway, as you can see, with construction starting this month. But noting that phase of the job will be done in June of this year. We'll start phase 3 and 4 in March, so there'll be a period of time we'll have multiple crews working on this project. And that stage of the work is timed such that we can work down and around the Nayland Drive and UT campus area during the summer season when student activity won't be as great as they are later in the fall. So, complete project, again, be completed by the end of this calendar year. And again, a reminder, this project is intended to do really two things for us. One, service to the university to provide natural gas to their current coal-fired steam plant. So a good environmental positive for our community. It also brings an additional gas feed, a high-pressure gas feed into the KUB service area to give us greater operational and flexibility for our system to serve the other 98,000 customers we have. A little more detail about the South Loop Phase 2. We have a contractor in hand, as I stated, Southeastern Connections. They are a major pipeline construction company. They actually did some work for us a couple of years ago on a section of our high pressure line in the north end of our system. It was affected by road realignment projects. We had to do a section replacement there, and they were a good contractor for us at that time. So we're pleased to have them as the successful bidder, of which we had 7 companies that were pre-qualified to bid on this job. The bid price was higher than estimated, so we continue to work with that contractor to see what we can do through value engineering to bring that cost down, and also consider their input as we get ready for the next phase to be bid in February for phase 3 and 4 to try to bring those dollars down. That is a large number, $7 million. We recognize that, and we will be reviewing our funding plan with the board next month to talk about how we can manage that. But I will say it will not result in an increase in the rates that we've talked about. This board is already approved going forward, so it's not going to be a rate issue. It's just a timing and project alignment concern.
What were the items that ended up coming in much higher? Because I know you all are usually very good about estimating, and that seems to be significantly out of whack.
It is, and it mostly came in under just the construction of the pipeline itself. The material costs were not out of line. Which when we say material, we're talking about pipe and fittings, and those aspects were not. Some of the items like restoration and paving, those are some of the items we think we can work with the contract to pull those out and see if we can't find local folks to do that for us. They're giving us prices based on their familiarity with the folks in town. So we think we can work with them on some of those dollars, but the timing of this project, some of the other things that's going on in the industry itself, some of the pipeline jobs out in the Midwest and even up in the Northeast for some of the shale work, we think that probably affected just some of the flat hourly resource rates. So we're working what we can to adjust that.
I do know we were getting bids lower during the recession just based on that. Are we seeing our bids typically going up now in every phase, or is this just one?
I think this is a very specialized job. This is a high-pressure, cross-country pipeline. Jobs that we typically see when we're working in the right-of-way or near the right-of-way, public right-of-way, smaller diameter, lower pressure. This will be a 450-pound type line for us. It's the highest pressure pipeline that will be on our system. Our typical pipeline on the high-pressure side is about 200 pounds. The typical distribution is 60. So there's a marked difference in some of the skill set required to do this work was kind of known as the marketplace for bidders, although we did have 7 folks we felt comfortable getting.
Commissioner, I would tell you, though, that we are not seeing the consistency in bids that we've seen in the past when the economy was a little bit slower. Now that things are looking a little bit better, we're seeing some fluctuations, and we're seeing some bids coming in higher than anticipated. We're just not enjoying quite the consistency of low bids that we were at one point in time.
And we we bid the 3rd and 4th phases yet, or is that?
That actually is going out for bid next month in February, and we hope to receive those and make that award sometime see the kind of environment they're working in. But the next phase, we're talking about smaller diameter pipe. We're talking about 8-inch pipe. This is a 16-inch heavy wall steel construction with pressure. The other is heavy wall steel construction, but it's smaller diameter, less construction, space needed, workability, material handling, you know, welding time, all those components kind of add to it. And, I think Bill's exactly right. I think we have seen that the marketplace for the survivors of the economy as far as contractors, there's fewer, there are good ones, but there's fewer of them, and I think the saturation of the work is just got us on this one. I mentioned that we were starting this project down at Topside Road, and this property right here is property owned by Spectra Energy, which is our pipeline supplier. This being Alcoa Highway, Topside Road, this is the northeast corner of that intersection. So natural gas came through our area back in the 50s, and I didn't check, but I would venture to say East Tennessee, or Spectra Energy, as now they're called, they have had that property since that time. This area right through here, this is all of the pipelines facilities, Spectra Energy. This is the new KUB facility, and we're actually going from here over to this station with the connection to the pipeline. So we'll be making our way up the right way in this area. This is just beyond the previous photo. You can see the clearing operations for our South Loop project is underway. That's right here. You'll say that's a pretty wide stretch of width of property there to work in. We will end up with a 50-foot right-of-way. There's currently an additional 25-foot construction easement that we're going to enjoy to get this pipeline in place. But we are running parallel right here to Spectra Energy's pipeline. So there's a pipeline over here, Spectra Energy. I think that's an additional high-pressure line. Of course, it's higher than ours. They're running 600 to 1,000 pounds of pressure on that pipeline. So at that previous slide, that's where we get our feed from them. We'll be taking our line through here. These cross-country pipelines typically is you end up with a 50-foot right-of-way minimum. We'll place our pipeline to one side of that versus put it in the middle, because sometime in the future you want to give yourself space for a parallel line when the other line is no longer of value or has deteriorated, or for what reason you need to replace it. Access to cross-country is limited by road, so you need to have the ability to get your equipment on there and make your way up and down the pipeline to get access to the line itself, safety surveys, etc. So that's why it's such a large section. Now, any questions on the South Loop project?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Go back to the next slide. Are we allowed to plant any type of practices or anything to utilize those areas as relates to like wildlife or anything? Or is this going to be?
We will go, if we want to end up with something that we can move across. We need to walk across that. We need to be able to do leakage surveys, cathodic protection surveys, all those safety surveys that are required for the safe operation of pipelines that we need to access.
Should be some type of pavement?
No, it'll be grass,
Grass. Like that.
We'll work with our vegetation management folks like we have on our other right-of-ways. We have some similar right-of-ways to this. We work with them to try to keep the hard woody stuff from growing up, some of the weed trees, et cetera. So there's some things we can do to make sure we get nice field, native grass, field grass that looks nice, holds down the soil, can, properly, et cetera. Moving on to the system in general, again, it's a heavily regulated, the gas industry is. We've seen some slow customer growth. We've seen the declining in the residential consumption that we talked about for our other systems, like on the power side and on the water side. And then talk a little bit about the Century 2 programs, which actually, they coupled with some of the regulatory requirements. Those programs help us meet those requirements and also respond to the customer growth on our system. show you this because this is what we refer to many times if you've heard us in other presentations over the years talk about the north loop. Well, this is the KUB system that goes from this receiving station on the pipeline, this being Spectra Energy's pipeline. We have this northern loop of high pressure system. This feed right here, which used to come into the Bernard Street area, that was the original Knox lateral that fed Knoxville originally back in 1950-ish, 51. And this line right here, this is what we talk about the south loop. This will complete this southern loop on our system. This is the phase we're in now. So there's a new connection, and the feed makes its way up to the existing line here is the river crossing we made in phase 1. It's hard to see, but you might see a little purple right here. That's supposed to represent these next two and the final two phases where we actually go back up into the back side of the Metron Center there off of Kingston Pike. And west of the UT area, we'll be putting in a regulator station there, a control station, if you will, and that's where we'll take the 8-inch pipe and bring it back down towards Nayland Drive and over to the steam plant for that service. So a different kind of construction environment, something that we're very familiar with ourselves, and then a lot of our contractors should be comfortable with working in that kind of a bid process. Highly regulated. The industry actually started with minimum federal safety standards in the early 70s. So in 1970, we had our first federal safety standards. Before that, there were industry standards. Some professional associations had standards. So the gas systems were built in a safe fashion, but all of that was brought together under a federal program in 1970, and that was a very prescriptive regulation. It said you would do certain things in a certain time frame, and everybody in the country was supposed to do the same thing. I say that because things have changed. Some of the notable changes are listed here, a little more modern times, but if you look right here under operator qualification, for those of you that may have been here, maybe not been here in 1999 like I was, but that came in and said you have to have people qualified to do the work. That's when they started making the change and said, well, not everybody does the same work. Some companies, some utilities have cast iron like we do, some don't. So I don't have to have a qualification standard to work on a part of the system, which I don't have. So we started seeing this change in the way the regulations were being presented to us about what's good for our system, so that they became more performance-based regulations. And you really see that down here in 2010 when we started with the Distribution Integrity Management Program, or the DIMP program. And I'll talk a little bit more about the DIMP program. They're saying you need to know who you are and what you are. And then you need to be able to perform these safety tests and these safety programs and replacement programs which are a result of that, and maintain your system to be safe. And that is dependent on each utility's history, etc. So our Century 2 program support this, or this supports our Century 2. So this is a coupling together aspect of the work. But we need to do a good job, and then of course the bottom line is we have to report back to the regulatory folks what we're doing. So they do monitor what we're doing. It's a formal process.
How often do you have to send a report? Is it annually or?
Well, annually there's a federal report that we send in that talks about what our system is made up of and what our condition is. But they come by on a regular basis, at least once a year, if not more. And recently for us it's been more, and they'll do specialized audits, we'll say, where they come in and look at some aspect of your program, and at least it seems every year they come in and do a comprehensive, which will look at all aspects.
Are those scheduled visits or?
They can be other. They can be one or the other.
But just federal?
This is the Tennessee Regulatory Authority working under the umbrella. They represent federal.
It's very similar to OSHA inspections. You're all familiar with that, it's just a different agency.
But again, the very first thing, know your system. what's unique about your room. So let's go back and just talk a little bit about, well, what do we know about our system? And my career started back here. I'm not going to give you the exact date, but I'm back in here. But there was like 600 miles of pipe in the system then. We've got today over 2,300 miles of pipe in the system. You'll see, wow, there wasn't much going on in the system, didn't grow much back in here. Well, you got to remember, the safety regulations just came out, and everybody was trying to do all the tests and do all the safety surveys, so there was a lot of asset management going on that time. There was a lot of replacement activity going on that time, and I'll show you a slide in a second that'll talk about some of the programs that we had in place to do that. Wow, everybody knows the growth in the community in Knoxville, and I guess most of the country back in the 80s and the 90s, so you'll see a lot of growth in there, and then the economy slowed of late. So how have our programs fared against that history? Well, back in the 70s, there's some material that was used in the system, like uncoated steel pipe. Well, uncoated steel, anything buried in the ground is going to corrode. The new regulations came out and said, well, you can't allow that, so you must do something about it. Well, one was a lot of safety surveys, a lot of condition assessment, and/or replace. I think KUB did a good job of saying we just need to have programs in place to replace aging infrastructure. So we went on that program and accomplished the uncoated steel mains and services in the 70s and the 90s. I'll say there's also another material you don't see up there. It was non-factory coated material, because we used to wrap a little bit of that stuff ourselves in our own plant, and that's all gone as well. So again, you see the same effect with copper services. Copper services, a good thing in some respects, but then of course when you couple that with steel pipe, you create a corrosive cell, and the results are not good. Those programs started in the 70s, and the follow-up with that was 1980-ish kind of time frame. We took opportunities to get rid of some of our cast and ductile iron pipe, which has been very good material. The industry today uses, still has a lot of that in the system, so we're not out of the norm that we had that material in our system, nor that we still have a few miles of that left. It's our target date to complete that work in 2015. So depending on what takes place with some road projects, which is one of the opportunities we always try to take advantage of. In 1980, somebody was realigning a state road that had cast iron on it. We took the opportunity to replace our cast iron and moved it up on the schedule. So we're looking for opportunities, and if they arrive, and we'll be out of that business at the end of this year. We'll be moving on to good factory-coated steel pipe, just lower pressure. You'll see that kind of a pipe in some of the neighborhoods, 2-inch, predominantly some 4-inch. This project is the cast and ductile iron. You can see how things were affected. Back in this time frame when we were still doing some of the bare steel and such, a slow pace. About the time we got completed with bare steel, we jumped down and got pretty active, but then lo and behold, this is the season of rapid growth. So we were doing the work, but we weren't as aggressive as we have been over the last 10 years trying to bring this program to closure. We've been averaging 8 to 10 miles a year for the last 10, 11 years. So that, again, coming to an end, a good Century 2 asset management program. This is just another way to represent the same thing. Back here, again, when I started my career back in here, we had a lot of steel and a little bit of plastic. Now we got a lot of plastic, not much steel, virtually out of the cast iron business. We're really getting down to the point where we're going to have high pressure, factory coated steel pipe and a polyethylene system, a good place for us to be. In summary, the South Loop, again, had significant environmental and operational benefits to KUB and the community. We've been guided by our history of growth and the changing environment. It guides our Century 2 programs. And just in closing there, we are going to be discussing the funding plans
life of the plastic?
Polyethylene, we would expect that to be 100 years. Steel pipe, 100 years or greater. It's hard to predict or guesstimate, I guess, beyond 100 years, but very strong. Polyethylene over the years, I don't mean to take a lot of time, but I do recognize that I got a little bit more time for some elements. Polyethylene is not, polyethylene in the 70s is not polyethylene of 2015, I'll say that. So plastic pipe, polyethylene pipe has gone through many, many iterations of improvement over the years. So there are some pipes of the old days that will build in our replacement program as well.
Longer than any of us will be on the board.
There you go.
There's a great picture of it right there, we'd like to.
There you go. That's
And
right.
not a question, but a comment. I just wanted to say, I have heard some comments from some folks out around North Shore that they have been amazed at how much work is going on out there and how well the traffic flow has continued. So people in that area are very pleased with that. So that's.
You're so generous.
Y'all have been pleased with that.
Does any of the commissioners have any more questions? Do we have any visitors? Anybody come in? No. Okay. Following the adjournment of this meeting, the board of staff will have a lunch session across the hall, and it is open to the public, so this meeting is adjourned.